Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. Live today, this Thursday, March 12th. We're live on turtleislandnews.info. And please go ahead and look at the page today. I have a couple new articles up. One, Pamela Paltmere. She's the one who started I Don't Know More. Also something about CERN, which has videos that I suggest you watch, and Parting the Veil, which is happening. Oh, we're also on Revolution Radio, Studio 8. Good morning, everybody. I was wondering if I should get out my magic mirror and say, Miss Tracey is saying hi to you, but you know you're listening, and I appreciate that. We're also live on Awake Radio. Good morning, everybody. And, of course, Wolf Spirit Radio. This year, 2015, has been called the Year of Lights. And as we've been talking about, even with the Cthulhu and Grail mysteries, we are talking about Merkaba and energy fields in our bodies and on our planet and in our solar system that connects us to everything that's going on. This year, despite warnings once again from leading scientists like Stephen Hawking and Neil deGrasse Tyson, they've warned that the activation in the next couple days, I think it's the 23rd actually of March, CERN's large Hadron Collider could pose yet again grave dangers for our planet. The ultimate reality check. We are warned. Hawking has come straight out and said the God particle found by CERN could destroy the universe, leaving time and space collapsed. Is CERN the most dangerous thing in the cosmos that could lead to the ultimate destruction of Earth and the entire universe? Recent developments prove to me the scientific community is no longer able to explain reality without looking at the supernatural. We will soon learn if CERN is really the ultimate stargate and one of the gatekeepers' most closely guarded secrets. Will this be the way man attempts to break the ultimate God barrier and attempt to encounter demigods in an all-out rush towards the destruction of all creation, which they have attempted repeatedly? I understand they won't be releasing the secrets until they're prepared to release them. Does CERN's headquarters symbol of Shiva, dancing the cosmic dance of death and destruction, signal the true purpose for CERN's existence? Look at the Shiva, Hindu god of destruction. Symbolically surrounding CERN's headquarters gives us the beginning of what we need to know. The men who would play God in search of a particle are truly going to find more than they bargained for as they open the gates of hell. We are warned by even Stephen Quayle, they will find interdimensional beings who have a taste for flesh and humanity's destruction. Most scientists, in lacking understanding of supernatural entities, are going to confront them anyway. And they're way beyond their ability to comprehend, let alone control, the forces of Pandora's box that are once again being opened. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has also sounded the alarm in a hypothetical manner by telling anyone who might want to blow up the planet how to do so. Is this CERN's attempt to do so by attempting to recreate the Big Bang within a man-made structure that has frightened Stephen Hawking so much? Do they know what they are doing? And ask yourself, how much energy is keeping it together? Neil deGrasse Tyson told a co-host, Eugene Merriman, on his Star Trek radio show, then you have to put more than that amount of energy into an object. It will explode. In the movie Star Wars, we see the Death Star blow up the planet of Alderaan. Miriam said, reading the question, set aside the question of how such a thing would be possible. What would happen if our solar system, and to our solar system, if the Empire blew up, say, Mars, that just had another outgassing that looked like an explosion, and Mars is twinkling? Several things are happening on Mars, as we've talked about before. It is not just the probes that they admit to sending there. Know that when we put energy into a machine and send it to another place, we change that place. We are connected to everything we put our minds to. Now first, deGrasse Tyson said, any imperial sympathizer looking to make that happen would have to calculate the planet's binding energy in order to determine how much energy it would take to overcome the gravitational forces binding a planet together. Now you have a device that can pump that energy into your planet and have that planet absorb the energy. Rather than have the energy come out the other side, it will destroy the planet. Smithereens is what he said. That's how one would go about it. So again, I have 3 videos up. Compilation, CERN, Super Colliders, Subliminals, Stargates, the Illuminati's plan for Satan's arrival. And I'm sorry I'm calling it Satan, and I hate dissing Satan, except they're calling 2015 the year of light. The 4th video I have up, Nova documentary on CERN. The final video is from Freedom Fighter 2127, in which the videographer offers his own evidence, opinions on CERN. And it's tied into 2015, the international, now, year of light. We are talking about Merkaba, energy fields, stargates, the aliens, the ETs, if you will, and the nature spirits that are here are powered by something beyond our control or imagining. The waves from Orion that allow us to have life, allow life and everything it touches. In every dimension it touches, there is life, whether we see it or not. These beliefs somehow largely waned and recessed after patriarchal takeover of the multi-millennia history of this planet. Aliens took a step back, perhaps, into a larger circuit of nature to let us more independently cultivate, evolve, if you will, but only after adding some messianic spice here and there, it appears. However, the aliens don't recognize the human religious institutions as exclusive representative modes of the people, and are establishing mostly private relationships with individuals and sometimes small groups of people, aliens, if you will, recognize the institutions and their leaders as local earthly petri dish gods. They do not recognize their so-called authority over the right to check the flock and set up connectivity directly for themselves. We are involved with helping and creating many religious figures that inspired the religious institutions of our Judeo-Christian Western world, whether it be Jesus or Moses or Yahweh or Muhammad or the one God, Allah, or Joseph Smith or Archangel Morioni, or for that matter, certain activities in ancient Egypt and India. It is now secretly admitted that E.T. had a role all along the way. The role kept covert, removed behind a curtain. A key interrogative insight, I guess, is this threading that we have seen in all of these, everything between, of who controls the hearts and the minds of humanity, and who is the custodial authority of the matters of their souls and status in our universe. It is our universe, but we are just part of it, not the owners, not even of here, not the earth. So realize, the very human institutions that were ultimately spawned by activities of ancient kings, gods, E.T., aliens, are very much at odds with the very thought of an alien custodial return. These institutions are so much at odds with the very idea they are finding that they will have to knuckle under and adapt to the populace, getting a new higher authority. These ETs, EDs, extra-dimensional entities, have been the masters of perception and deception for millennia untold. So we can expect a display of camouflage, subterfuge, psychological manipulation skills. This means that some of the unscrupulous will take advantage of the vulnerabilities of the situation, just as we would. And apparently neither human institutions nor aliens are quite ready to declare the game over and all come out from behind their masks. And this charade has sacrificed purposes and profane purposes. The sacred purpose, apparently soul evolution, we are told. Profane, absolutely soul control. On that note, I saw something called the Montauk Chronicles. I only got about halfway through it. What came to my mind when I was watching it, and some of the things that were said. Stuart Studlow, is that his name? Who can say things that are horrific and not flinch, not move his eyes, not even have a glaze of emotion over his face, talking about Tesla's work, who said that he used the pyramid as a model, who too did the journey to India to study with the elders, did the journey to Tibet to study with the elders and the dark magicians. Tesla said, these technologies could be used to control you. This Montauk Chronicle that I watched, I didn't even get through it. I will not watch it. I leave that out to you, what you're going to do with this information. I had a nightmare. I never have nightmares. I woke up to myself screaming. I heard my own voice screaming. These pyramids that are uncapped, so spewing energies outwards, that we have been told before that they are prisms and prisons, and that they were keeping something trapped. I woke up with the real feeling that we should blow every single one of them off the map. Institutions have discovered, I guess to their dismay, that the divinities and deviltries of history are just as readily and easily bypassing them now. The last thing these institutions want humanity to generally believe is that ETs are heavenly masters of the spiritual world. That only us in the physical realms are trapped as watchers and unable to move. But they in turn don't wish to have the populace educated in knowing how to spot a false master when they see one. Who is the false master? Is it the ETs that help create the messiahs, or the human institutions that represent messianic divinities of history? And that is a good thing. It's about to spark the divinity in humankind, not about being a commodity, a soul currency to feed the fantasies of the followers of dark laws, be psychic corn dogs to whatever reptilian, demonic, brokeback mountain devil creature with technology far advanced. This is not a war we can win without allying. And that is one prevailing view here. Everything has more than one side. In this realm of duality, it's why we have a right and a left. One side spiritual, one side physical. All these aspects. So the problems reveal themselves even more rapidly in relationship when we consider how the whole alliance issue has splintered and fractioned the controlling intelligent apparatus in the world, along with religious and the spiritual and the anti-spiritual lines. The fractional arc enclaves are direct lineage to the fractional spiritual influence and human history and historical conditioning. You have been conditioned to believe certain things even though you know they're wrong. So the very cultish distinctions in the world's secret controlling multi-level echelon. These are all intelligent clans and cabals and crony systems. They were all derived in historical terms from the Catholic Church and its secret orders until the post-A-bomb period, when independence developed between key players into factions. The crucible yields amalgam of reluctantly allied forces, an extremist allied forces, an entirely secret New World Order that falls out of the hands of those who benefited first and most from technology transfer, whether that was alien or not, or interdimensional or not. I don't know, and I don't care. The alien problem has fractionated world powers and above TS intelligence into religious and anti-religious factions now. And at the same time, it has unified them into one planetary security network. The echelons define themselves out of the extremities of institutional human response, and together are the arc of how the high strangeness, non-fractional, abnormal, conflicting behaviors of secret government parties are created. They are all operating now with impunity under the top secret state of war condition that we have been in for over 50 years now, since Fat Boy, the real deep freeze war, underneath the good cover of Cold War. World War II never stopped. Or it went so quickly into World War III, unstoppable, that there's no line drawn in the sand anymore. It's the agenda here that claim involvement in human religions that is number one priority issue and debate, despite the advancement of all of our science as a new form of worship. The fact that these divine beings beat science to hell with their own million-year-old science and technologies and telepathic connected group mind trumps any new form of techno-worship of rational minds we humans have developed. We did not discover anything new. We reactivated something old that was not supposed to be retouched. And here's the gum in the works. Supposedly, divine beings, in religious terms, were always considered above the flesh, above the worldliness of physical impediment, above the limitations of physical cosmos. And now, they're not. They are slimy bugs, lizards, other Dr. Moreau morphs out of animal kingdom. And they are the heavenly hosts, the angels, the Olympian man-gods of history and myth. They are Atlas, experiment running at CERN, the perfect being, and Alice, the abused little girl, raped, pillaged, together, combined now. Physical ET stakeholders being part of a divine history is difficult assimilation, I understand. And will our institutions survive full disclosure? The full Monty, if you will? Things are increasingly in flux in all the matrix of physical and metaphysical reality since the millennial days of 2012. A few parties in the power elite are effectively Satanists, Luciferians, if you like, in that they harvest souls through torture and the sacrifice of children and the use of technology and unwilling people to cause chaos. Some entities feed on fear and tears. Some entities rejoice in love. Some feed perhaps on love. But chaos is keeping them busy. It is that doctrine for maintaining the control of the faithful by preventing their creative ascent into any kind of spiritual term. Inflicting chaos of social and human pain is a means to their ends of power and the pursuit of truth, no matter how profane the truth or the methods of obtaining it are. They do not care if it hurts your feelings. The lesson of the fallen soul or fallen angel, if you will, is not lost on such folks. And from their point of view, it is here. Some people will be horrified by this, but they will most likely be far too asleep to notice. Cults, Merkaba, energy fields, stargates, the pulse from the Raya Nebula, the gods, the sun. Cults have encoded spiritual signals and gained power for warrior and business castes. As always, the phallic, the serpent, the sun cult worshippers were amongst the elite military and economic classes, classes commissioned by the most powerful religious centers. Moon, female principle, worshipped, are still present and not so hidden in the existence of modern New Age cults. Feminine principle worship, practiced as family and community and inclusive environmentalism today. This is the story of the Magdala, who you were killed for reading a book that I've searched for my whole life. It is why the Marys were involved with the Jesus. Mary is a title. The Magdala is a cult, if you will, an order of women. To see the hidden truth, you need only consult the right symbolic code book dictionary, a dictionary of cryptographic munitions of soul, evolution, and control, a dictionary where mutations are the keys to human connection with the cosmos and spiritual worlds and connections with our progenitors. Social symbols evolve to carry a great meaning. This dictionary, with the mutations, are the power and the consciousness of nature and the heavens and the earth and the symbols that connect them. And the politics is about our rights to individually have the freedom and personal sovereignty to access these symbols and identify who we are through them. Spiritual symbol control, cryptography of spiritual energy control in order to keep the populace managed. Some would prefer to profit from the prevention of free evolution, then let it topple existing control structures and the advantages because of it. They will never let us go. These dictionaries reveal codes and means assessing spirit, NET, if you will, although I just think they are beings not physical. But ET, if you like, that's fine. without any authorized human go-betweens. You were never included in this. You were never welcomed in this. They never wanted you in this, and you can kneel to any god you want. It was never for you. The economic, warrior, phallic, serpent, secret society cults. A woman's body is the property of the state via the law. Look at the laws that have come out. The law of ancient covert, hostile takeover of the mother, the Mary, Mother Earth. Freedoms are state privilege only, have never been fundamentally human right under any law. From church canon law to old maritime law to modern national government laws, humanity has always been chattel of the Lord from the church point of view, or chattel of the state from the economic point of view. So true freedom is granting rights to devil worship, symbolic counterintelligence. And so it must be narrowly privileged, simply not a fundamental right. This is how things go. This is how deep they go. All Western civilization is a consequence of how institutional humanity formed in response to and adapted to one of the greatest contact events, and the creation of Jesus Christ. Anyway, that makes alien contact an Achilles heel for religious institutions unless they find accommodation with returning divine and profane entity masters. The barriers between the worlds of beingness and power. A larger issue here is the spiritual vortex energy and other physical cosmic fluxes are opening up in this region of the universe now. The weather is warmer today because of a solar flare. It's happened for 2 days. This may go. It is slow, our sun, now. But dimensional permeability between us and other worlds and spirit realms is still increasing no matter what they do. Tremendous energies are available for assimilation or destruction, it appears, depending on how the energies and the influences are integrated or resisted. Sometimes the old standard symbolic ritualistic practices just don't work anymore. Others will work far too well and become almost frightening in their power. One reason the military is involved in creating hybrids is an attempt to produce alien human beings capable of both human-type control and alien ability to affect telepathic interface. This is a situation where telepathic capacity is made stronger than the power of language to impede, deflect, or destroy telepathic reception. With a normal person, the power of language is almost by itself sufficient to place a consciousness into a limited band capacity of attention and distribution. Experience not within the vocabulary of articulation becomes ignored, avoided with a hybrid, something physical and not quite physical, something human and mechanical. The convergence has already happened. With these hybrids, the telepathic overcomes the hypnotism of language. The lack of telepathic interface is often only the conscious energy in play that edits the acquisition stream, well before the field consciousness, or a conscious reception, if you will. Drop the invested autonomic control energies, the controlling attention, the mind, the feeling, the intuition, the psychic broadcasting, antenna detection systems are influencing and sense thought wave and emotional wave scalar space events and EM like resonance. Because now Pandora's box is opened and managed with butterfly nets. And we're unable to tell what some agendas are because we can't read their minds. And ET certainly is not telling. These entities are deft at communication and contacting us using advanced subconscious subliminal techniques for which most parts seem harmless, sometimes even helpful. Thankfully, they don't seem in a hurry to meddle with our society openly, only pick at the edges. They are interested in, however, in their usual antics, getting genetic samples before the pool might get too destroyed or corrupted. Earth won't be destroyed by aliens or cosmic catastrophe, but by all things the advanced technology cannot change. A mankind which would destroy itself and the life on this beautiful earth. And given the military cooperation that is apparent, the real story, that is the only story justifying a lot of conduct going on right now, is that they are working. And perhaps, for the most part, they are future humans. And I think some of them are. These aliens, future humans from different timelines. Future humans have returned using technology to travel through time, to hybridize their genetic component with genetic stocks of this time and age. Pandora was a woman, a symbolic goddess, religions of the ancient past, whose power was stolen by her husband. By the way, nature was put in a box by the patriarchal religions that are killing us. She, in a manner of speaking, has returned to open the box. Institutions of power want to keep the lid closed and feel too much already has flown out of the box. Anything that has made it out of the box has been labeled and placed in a new kind of box, an invisible box, with no lid, without walls, where the truth lies right out in the open, but wrapping still exists in our hearts, in our minds. This is the status quo. Things changing slowly into a new state, new paradigm, relationship with God, goddess, nature, spirit, cosmos. Human society will never be the same. There are known and unknown trigger conditions that occur to accelerate or impede the process of change, the process of integration with larger cosmos. The secret government agenda has always been to discover the real alien agenda, in time, to constructively do something about it. Meanwhile, mass covert contact goes on, as maybe it always has and always will. So relax. Simple idea. is that the sparks and fragment of God called souls invested in humanity may be cultivated into something different, somehow beyond, not necessarily better than our creators. The harvest rights, though, the bounty, are the real end game here. The sun is dying, and too soon. This is caused by regional dimensional vortex shutdown some 90,000 years ago. Solar instability can cause much life on Earth to be unsustainable in 40 years. Ancient astrotheology calendars are all end around, well, what time is it? Now. All of them. They're also dangerous interplanetary bodies with civilization threatening capacity due to some serious damage to Earth in another 150 years or so, depending on who you talk to. One way or another, we are slated to leave Earth sooner or later or else. This is a prevailing secret truth. Those in control would rather save themselves and a few elite than worry about the whole of mankind, despite the presence of very well-meaning but deluded true human patriots amongst the bunch. Cosmic regional hyperdimensional vortices began to open back 1994 in the region beyond and in line with Sirius double star system. They will be increasingly open again. The first hit peak resonance as a wave around 2007. In the Omega game, the critical choices are fast approaching. Originally, the death sentence of our sun was caused by ancient hyperdimensional vortices, a closure near Sirius. That unfortunately starved the sun of the divine energy, caused it to emit vibrations of death and illness, which are coming again. But on the other hand, if the closure had not been done, some horrific ancient evils would have continued. But the critical compensating element was the ejection from something else, spiritual sources, if you will, of a special soul substance, high spirituality into the earth humanity at the time. 90,000 years ago, original Neanderthal humanity was given a gift, a higher soul substance, distributed itself into humanity beyond the physical universe. They built cities, communities. They were not stupid, but they changed suddenly. And it was a compensating action against the genetic evils that had already occurred, already changed us, already made us different. Incredibly, there was a side effect. Humans were endowed to become spiritual powerhouses with their own soul vortices. In our temples, one in our head, one in our chest, one in our pelvic region. And our stomach, which is the fire, the sun of us, controlling all this, also called the second brain. Why do I call it the sun? Well, solar plexus. That was a given. But the original offending evils, who wanted the control of Eden as their own perverse playground to control, manipulate, suppress, rule, were kicked off the planet to nearby Sirius and Betelgeuse systems. Betelgeuse. Few stayed hidden on the earth, underground. This has been known by the Inno status quo. Human powers, thousands of years. The Sirius vortices have opened up just enough to amplify the capacity of the soul, human beings, and commence other major natural genetic transformations, apparently encoded and dormant in humanity since the original genetic counter-engineering by positive CERN forces 90,000 years ago. Because of this, the sun's life can be extended. The coming big energy wave goes positive, or at least more positive than time travels amongst us believe that it went last time. What we do believe around 2007 is that it was critical how the wave hit then. Actually, humanity already did it several times before that to evolve. As much of the unpredicted new future tracks, even possible, are now probable. With spiritual, hyperdimensional vortices now opened, or at least partly, with enough human spiritual development, the sun can be stabilized, at least temporarily, but even completely. The time available for space migration can be cushioned. So a radical future genetic engineering does not overtake our race, human race, not a color. And we do not turn ourselves into that hive mind ET that we have been told about our future. The need for space migration can be entirely relaxed because the sun can be stabilized for another 4,000 years or so. We can take centuries getting off the planet as a whole instead of having less than 60 years before human extinction. Coming wave, the wave hitting now, has already happened negatively, as evidenced by the existence of many time travelers and future humans coming from distant futures long after the disaster already happened, telling us the same story, writing it down. They had advanced enough to migrate their souls back to catch a different part of the big wave that is happening and still in our future. It is upon us now. The coming resonance wave is in many ways hyperdimensional, beyond our current ability to comprehend. To some, need to know arc elements. This smacks of invasion. Yet to other, need to know arc elements. There's a chance for evolution. The question is it a false or genuine change? Is it spiritual liberation or more entanglement and entrapment? The spiritual soul substance endowed in human beings makes humanity coveted by certain negative spiritual forces millions of years long, extends to the universe, such as certain elements of the people of the snake, earlier fallen experiment remnants from Earth's history. Today we are beginning another equally immense genetic and dimensional consciousness, an evolutionary shift for those who have been encoded, even if they are dormant in our genes, for these 90,000 years. Recently they are unlocked in all of us by the vortices that we are seeing and we have seen in the sky, slowly changing us. What is our one big strength as humans, as a people? Some of us always adapt. There is always some fragment that remains. Always. I believe we do have the right stuff to break free of our bonds and actually survive. I'm sure it'll take a long time getting it right, and I'm not seeing it right now. Do we repeat future bad history currently on schedule, or do we phase channel into something new? Does the snake eat its tail this time, where the Omega game is over and starts over as Alpha once again, or do we graduate? You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy, and I will be right back. Okay. Here I am. Can you hear me? Wait a minute. Just started. Now I'm hearing an echo on Revolution Radio. It looks like everybody's good to go. Caught up. I have no idea what happened. I can't hear music on Revolution Radio, so we're good. We're good. I'm going to have some tea. How was that? Of all the crap I talk about, you're going to tell me that that bothered somebody? Please. So after my nightmare last night, I was being chased by these monsters that grabbed and torn asunder. And then I woke up to hear myself say, after a series of bad words, no. I said no. Now, let's be honest here. There have been many falls of man. Main fall, according to the Guardians, was about 500 million years ago, from some higher harmonic universe to our 3D realm where we got chained in these bodies with this DNA, and we got a spinal cord, and we got these hands and these feet and all this stuff. And so originally, the original downfall, the original sin, if you will, supposedly 250 billion years ago. See articles called The Fall of Man. You can find them everywhere. In addition, some sort of Luciferian rebellion, the Angels of Light, in around 25,000 BC-ish, when the Necromonitons from Alpha Centauri and the Zetas and the Anunnaki from Neribu set up this Diodonic crystal. But before the time of Stonehenge-ish, energized by wormwood, the Planet X, which has resulted in Merkabahs, the basic energy spiral dynamics of us, our bodies, the universe, to reverse creating shadow selves, severe DNA mutations of all life forms on Earth. Science backs this up. Not the angel part, not the Merkabah part, but the weirdness happened. Of course, humans, having come down to 3D spectrum of frequencies, an arena for the creation of problems, gave negative forces this heyday. This was more their level. They could draw parasitically on the average person's energies. Different tools are used today by dark forces to prevent man's ascension from third dimensional spectrum to fourth dimensional one, and we have people, without knowing it, working for them, saying, let's get some more DNA. Let's have some more spirals. Let's, screw this mess up even more. Because, let's throw some more stuff in this soup. According to some channeling, which I'm, a little trepidatious about, a Zeta group, lower dimensional beings, although something did happen, there's evidence of something happening. We changed here on this planet. We might even compare this human absorption of consciousness with that of the humans' assimilation to the Borg collective in the Star Trek series. Energies from outside coming in. You can call them aliens, you can call them ET, you can call them God, you can call them, I don't know, the mighty pumpkin, who I am personal representative of. All hail. An energy came in, changed life on Earth. So these alien entities, controlled corresponding human groups, because when we are abused, we carry that within generations. This is the epigenetics that we've talked about. We feel the pain of these things and carry it and have a tendency to, if we're given even a little biscuit or a crumb off the table when we've been starving, we think those idiots are our heroes. Rape, pillage, and plunder. It is not an accident that they use people of Celtic and Native mix in their experiments here. And we know of the experiments done on all of our brothers and sisters in Europe. We know about the experiments done of all of our brothers and sisters here on Turtle Island. Why did they put them together? Specifically, guys, so that the old torture would merge with the new torture, making people more easily controllable. Because the natives would rather die than work for you. And you knew the black people were going to be a problem. Not you, not anyone listening to us. Nobody listening to us was one of those guys. If you think you're one of those guys, you're not one of those guys. They knew black people would eventually fight back. They set up the trauma and the starvation and the illness over and over and over and over and over again in Europe. Sent you guys over here. Some of us fell in love. We fought together as a family, but we were also controlled as a family. This always happens. So, there are terms for these things, psychologically, but I'm telling you energetically. You are merging an old trauma with a new trauma, and you are trauma bonding these people. That's how it works. That's how it's done. And these ideas happening over and over and over again is how they get us to fight each other. How they get us to sell out. Over and over and over again. We sell out because they have taken our tale, our stories, and then we have the protocols of Zion, new incorporation of the old trauma. Many of us live in societies that tout their greatest virtue as defending freedom by comparing themselves favorably to the stifling tyrannies enforced by former regimes. Insert the name of where you live there. However, the appearance of tolerance is offered under a pretense of free speech. by giving voice to a great variety of opinions, religious, political, but with only one very notable exception. The Zionist influence in Western cultures have been successful to the extent that any mention of undue Jewish influence of criticism of the state of Israel is equated to anti-Semitism. To that effect, hate groups have been implemented in every country, opening up the slippery slope of censorship. The irrational fear that it is elicited is the absurdity that any criticism of Jewish people risks the revive of some kind of anti-Semitism that could lead to genocide. Rather, sometimes Jews do evil, and sometimes Jews do great things. They are no worse nor any better than any other people. The tragic fact that such patently obvious truth needs to be reiterated points to the grossly excessive nature of paranoia that has been created. It is not racism to point out errors committed by some religious group. Instead, the true error is to blame all Jews for the crimes of some Jews, or all Christians for the crimes of some Christians, or anybody. Insert your religion now. It is a great absurdity perpetrated by Hitler. Nevertheless, the specter of anti-Semitism, like that of the Nazis, is used to denounce any Christian or any criticism of Jews now, thus protecting the nefarious action of certain scientists from exposure. Essentially, the primary accomplishment of World War I was to free Arab lands from the Ottoman Empire, leading to the creation of the Saudi state, the linchpin in the control of world politics through oil, freeing Palestine from the Ottoman control. Conclusion of World War II as a result of appalling revelations of Hitler's massacre of, yes, some Jews, but the number 6 million was taken from what happened in Russia. But millions of people were slaughtered by Hitler. But the rest of the world was moved by our compassion, which we have, to concede to the creation of the Zionist state, Israel, as a final solution for century-old Jewish question. As Norman Cole described, Hitler's warrant for genocide were the notorious protocols of the learned elders of Zion, which described a century-old plot by Jews to take over the world. The Holocaust is one of the great tragedies of history. I'm not saying it isn't. The utter barbarity of the catastrophe is that Hitler was purportedly eradicating the menace of an insidious worldwide Jewish conspiracy by sweeping through the ghettos to purge them of simple merchants and artisans and craftsmen, of women, of children, and the elderly, all innocent, all completely inept. The ultra-powerful Jewish bankers and industrialists left and were smuggled out. Anyone deemed responsible for the actual conspiracy that actually happened did not suffer. Even more disturbing is the apparent plot that involved the Nazis in collusion with the same Jewish industrialists in a Machiavellian plan to bring about worldwide control of anti-Semitism, to create sentiments for acceptance of the Zionist plan establishing the Jewish state of Israel. As a paradox, it would appear the devious plot perpetrated by Frankists, amongst whom a historian, Abraham Ducker, was indicated, anti-Semitism was characteristic as they despised other Jews because they were seen as stubbornly to adhere to the Torah, and out of resentment for the persecution they made to endure as heretics. Frankists believed themselves to be a superior sect, having superseded the traditional interpretations of Bible-believing Jews, who were unwilling in their minds to accept the legitimacy of Sabbatai Zevi as a prophesied Messiah or his teachings. Inter-religious rivalry is, of course, common amongst all faiths. That's why there's a frickin' Brazilian of them out there. And though it is not commonly recognized as occurring amongst Jews, such conflicts have existed in every religion, such as the battle between the Sunnis and the Shia of Islam, or of course the Protestants against the Catholics, who not only regard their enemies as outside the pale of faith, but as a greater threat than unbelievers themselves. Similar belligerents have been adopted by Frankists, who pursued, through covert methods, now Rabbi Antelman, to eliminate the opiate. He wrote that. Eliminate the opiate, who pointed out that the source of this plot were the Sabbatean Frankists who despised pious Jews for what they regarded as stubborn adherence to age-old teachings of Judaism, as they did all religions, of which they aimed a complete overthrow of everything. They hated everything. Rabbi Antelman's research has demonstrated that Sabbatism was introduced on a large scale to Judaism, principally through reform and conservative movements, as well as Zionist-leaning organizations like the American Jewish Council, or Congress, World Jewish Congress, and the B'nai B'rith. In his praise of Rabbi Antelman's work, journalist Barry Chemish says its crowning achievement was to prove that Jews are the chief victims of the New World Order, not the ones causing it. However, that is not to say Judaism lacks powerful traitors, as all religions do. Now, Theodor Herzl, 1860 to 1904, father of modern political Zionism, and in effect the State of Israel, sought a return to Israel as an alternative to assimilation and to escape mounting anti-Semitism at the end of the 19th century. However, as Zionism was originally a secular movement, it rejected all Jewish tradition, but nevertheless employed Jewish themes of redemption to resonate with other Jews. Traditionally, a Jew was considered one who adhered to the Jewish faith. Although through Zionism, however, being a Jew had become a nationality, identified merely with Jewish ancestry, which is questionable, and could be applied to an atheist as well as a believer, thus reflecting this Frankish-inspired secular influence and the rejection of actual Judaism. A book was written, 1919, called Has Eretz. In the national home, we declare Those Jews who failed to rid themselves of the rule of exile and to refuse to shave their beards and sidelocks are now second-class citizens. We do not give them the right to vote. As noted by authors of a it was like a story, and I think a movie, I'm not sure. Herschel and Zionism. In fact, Zionists use religious terminology to make observant Jews enthusiastic about this concept, which is new, while their actual intention was to state a state which would defy the principle of their own religion. And as outlined in his diaries, Herschel sought to deliberately inflame anti-Semitism, referring to the myth about the Jews that became typical of Nazi anti-Semitism, because they got it from Jewish people. The wealthy Jews control the world. In their hands lies the fate of governments and nations. They set governments one against each other by decree. Governments make peace. When the wealthy Jews play, the nations and rulers dance. One way or the other, they get rich. He suggested, indeed, anti-Semitism, a powerful, deeply rooted strength of mass subconscious, will not bring harm to the Jews. I find it helps build the Jewish character. In education, good for bringing about assimilation. And assimilation is achieved only through troubles. The Jews will adapt. He therefore concluded, an excellent idea enters my mind, to attack outright anti-Semites and make them discoverers of Jewish wealth. This specter of Jewish conspiracy was precisely the motivating factor employed by Hitler to justify the penetration of the Holocaust. Disturbingly, as pointed out by Norman Finkelstein in the Holocaust Industry, the painful memory of that tragedy had been cynically exploited by Zionists to foster continuing support of Zionism imperialist ambitions. Direct result of the Holocaust was to provide a justification for the fulfillment of long-term ambition of the Zionists, the creation of the State of Israel, believed to be preparing the way for the coming Messiah. That Messiah, according to Sabbatins, was Savate Zevi. But Zevi was believed to return in many guises, one of them Napoleon and Hitler as well. Yeah, so you're seeing kind of an antichrist symbolism here. Yeah, same religions use the same scare tactics. Anyway, with his pan-European ambitions, creation of a millennia, 1,000-year Reich also seems absurdly to fit into these exact aspirations. And is known, popular now, widespread rumors that Hitler himself was Jewish. Such a claim, put forward by a prominent New York attorney in the Torquemada principle, while still other theories suggest Hitler illegitimate grandchild of Rothschild. According to Rabbi Altman, these theories are incorrect. Rather, he claims Hitler was the deliberate creation of a ritual participated in by his mother, Clara Poltz, a Sabbatin Frankist. The ritual was had on the 9th of Av, known as Tisha B'Av, which observed by Jews as the first day of commencing the destruction of the first and second temples, but commemorated by the Frankists as Sabbatini Zevi's birthday, as which they celebrate their sex rights. In fact, Hitler's Jewish and African ancestry has been outright confirmed through recent genetic studies. Like Napoleon, Hitler belonged to the Y haplogroup E1b1p, which is rare in Germany, even Western Europe. Now, according to Ronnie Ducorday, genetics expert, Germany, who sampled Hitler's living relatives, the results of this study are surprising. Hitler would not have been pleased. E1b1b is presently found in various horns of Africa, North Africa, parts of Western, Eastern, South Africa, West Asia, Europe, but essentially and especially Mediterranean Spain and the Balkans. E1b1b, common amongst populations of Afro-Asiatic speaking history, where a significant portion of Jewish male lineages are E1b1p1, including that of Albert Einstein, E1b1b1, which accounts for approximately 18 to 20% of the Ashkenazi and up to 30% of the Sephardi Y chromosomes, appearing to be one of the major lineages of Jewish population who are, say it with me, black men. Complicated, yet black. Yeah, I bet you that shocked the crap out of him. Anywho, as Abraham Duckert noted, given the extent of their assimilation into Christian societies, it was not by accident that Nazi encyclopedia, Sigilla Vley, had nothing to say about the Franks. Evidently, Nazi genealogists preferred to leave them alone, fearful that such revelations might embarrass many people of importance. And contrary to conventional views, Mark Rigg, author of Hitler's Jewish Soldiers, reveals surprisingly large number of Jewish militiamen classified by the Nazis as Jews or partial Jews. In the wake of racial laws first enacted mid-30s, numerous exceptions were made in order to allow a soldier to stay in service or spare his family or other relatives from incarceration and or extermination. Hitler's own signature can be found on many of these exception orders. Rigg demonstrates that the actual number, far higher than previously suspected, perhaps even 150,000 Jewish men who served in the Nazi regime, including decorated veterans, high-ranking officers, even generals, even admirals. In Adolf Hitler, founder of Israel. Henneke Kardel quotes a book called Before Hitler Came by a German Jew named Dietrich Broder, which claims that not only Hitler, but his leading associates were all Jewish, of Jewish descent, and are related to Jewish families, were the leader and the Reichschancellor, Adolf Hitler, his representatives, the Reichsminister, Rudolf Hess, the Reichsmarshal, Hermann Göring, the Reichsleader of the NSDAP, Gregor Strasser, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, Alfred Rosenberg, Hans Frank, Heinrich Himmler, the Reich Minister von Ribbentrop, who pledged close friendship with famous Zionist Chaim Weizmann, first head of the State of Israel, who died 52, and von Kudel, field commanders, Globalnik, Jewish destructor, Jordan and Wilhelm Herbe, the great SS leaders Reinhard Heydrich, Erich von dem Bach-Belzewski, and von Krudel II were all active in the destruction of the Jews and all Jewish ancestry, at least. So as much as Herschel outlined, the notion of a worldwide Jewish conspiracy was laid out in the notorious Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, which purported to represent the minutes of a meeting of Jewish elders, who described a Jewish Freemason conspiracy to establish one world tyranny to be governed by the King of Jews. The Protocols were first published in 1905. An official of the Department of Foreign Relations in Moscow. He claimed to have received a copy in 1901 through an acquaintance of his who assured him of its faithful translation of secret documents, which a woman had stolen from one of the highest and most influential leaders of Freemasons at a secret meeting somewhere in Paris. Sounds rather vague. Niels later claimed in 1917 to have learned from authoritative sources that the Protocols were a strategic plan by Theodor Herschel to the First Zionist Congress held in 1897 in Basel, Switzerland, when Victor Marston, Russian correspondent for the London Morning Post, first translated the Protocols into English, 1920. They were widely accepted as genuine by a large segment of eminent diplomats and statesmen. The Times of London called for the impartial investigation. The Morning Post, Marston's newsletter, carried 23 articles detailing the Protocols and the rules of Jews and world affairs, and also called for an investigation. Lord Sydenham, an advocate and promoter of the Protocols, writing in The Spectator, remarked, like many others did, as a way of prophecies put forward in the Protocols were now being fully and literally fulfilled. Also, for an investigation in the origins. Finally, August 1921, the Times published an article by a Constantinople reporter, Philip Graves, who claimed to have determined that the Protocols were a forgery. Graves claimed to have met a white Russian landowner, 1921, referred to as only Mr. X, who had connections in Constantinople, who told him he knew the Protocols were plagiarism from a rare, very old French book. Now, suspiciously, according to his biographer, Peter Gross, Alan Dulles, who was in Constantinople developing relationships in the post-Ottoman political structures, who discovered the source provided to the Times, Dulles, a president of the CFR, later became the most famous head of the CIA and had intimate ties with the Nazis. He was the ultimate well, we'll see anyway. He was the grandson, anyway, of John Watson's Foster, I'm losing my English. Secretary of State, thank you, under President Benjamin Harrison, and a nephew to Robert Lansing. Wilson's Secretary of State, after graduating from Princeton, joined the diplomatic service at the outset of the program in Europe after the war as a cover for intelligence activities. As a diplomat, Dulles incepted his career as a spy gathering intelligence information various European countries where he was posted. The rare book turned out to be a work of 1864, Maurice Joly, titled Dialogue in Hell Between Machiavellian and the Montesquieu. Joly's book was an attack on the political ambitions of Napoleon II, who, represented by Machiavelli, plots to rule the world. Joly was imprisoned in France for 15 months as a direct result of this book's publication. Graves then discovered what he thought were numerous parallels and sometimes word for word, leading him to conclude that much of the protocols were paraphrased and downright copied from this book, not Jewish, had nothing to do with the Jews, no Jews allowed. Now, according to Norman Coe's analysis of the text in Warrant for Genocide, in all, over 160 packages and passages in protocols, totaling 2/5 of the entire text, were based on passages in Joly. In 9 chapters of the borrowings amount to be more than half of the text. In some, they amount to 3/4. In one protocol, number 7, it's almost word for word the entire text, and moreover, more than a dozen excerpts or exceptions. The order of borrowed passages remains the same with Joly. As an adapter, had worked through the dialogue, mechanically, page by page, copying straight into his protocols as he proceeded. Even the arrangement of chapters, the same. 24 chapters of the protocols corresponding to roughly 24 chapters of the dialogue. Only towards the end, where the prophecy of Messianic age predominates, does the adapter allow himself any real independence or actual writing. It is in fact clear case of plagiarism, out-and-out faking. There is no Protocols of Zion written by a Jewish guy. It was not. Now, some of the work was also stolen from another book, an 1868 novel by an anti-Semite German novelist, Hermann Gobshire. And I'll give you the name, the spelling, if you guys need it. It was called The Jewish Cemetery in Prague and the Council of Representatives of the 12 Tribes of Israel, in which this guy depicts a clandestine nocturnal meeting of members of mysterious rabbinical cabal that is planning a diabolical Jewish conspiracy to take over the world, of course. Now, the chapter closely resembles a scene in Alexander Dumas's The Queen's Necklace, which is also a good book. 1848. The chief of unknown superiors amongst the Swedenborg arranges for the affair of the diamond necklace. Umbraco Eco noted the plans revealed as appropriate, or approximately the same as described in 1880 in a French book, published in 2 letters, attributed to Jews of the 15th century. But Victor Marston has indicated it is an account, in fact, reproduced from 1806, Jules Ingres' La Civile Curious. Anyway, in Gerbstein's version, at midnight the devil himself appears to contribute opinions and insights. The ensemble figures each represent 12 tribes of Israel who report their activities during the century. Amongst the Levite announcements that Israel is rising again, thanks to gold, which has fallen into their hands, now can look forward to a near future when the whole world will belong to them. the representative of Rubin reports that the stock exchange, the Jews, have managed to place all governments of Europe in their debt and thereby control them. Suspiciously, all such works appeared pivotal years 1859 to 1869. This was not long after secret societies had become intensely active. A number of works directed against the Jews and secret societies just began to appear. The period began with the Year of Revolutions, 1848, followed by activities of Mazzini and Carboni, leading to the creation of the Kingdom of Italy, 1861. Joly was a protege of one of these guys, the head of the Alliance of Israel Universelle, the Order of Zion, as well as the Grand Master of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry, Supreme Council of the Order of Mizraim. Joly and Grimaud, like Carboni, with whom shared associations, despised Napoleon III. Nesca Webster noted that in addition to parallels found by Graves, there were two additional ones which belonged to this time period as well. Again, secret societies, the books were made up, universal Freemasonry. One book in particular called The Jews, Judaism, and the Judification of Christian People. It's all very scary, by a French author, with particular emphasis on the Alliance Israel Universelle and Universal Freemasonry, sharing a single life, animated by the same soul. Now, according to des Merzeau, the first practitioners of the Kabbalah were the sons of Cain, who after the flood were succeeded by the sons of Ham, became the Chaldeans. They passed their secret onto the Jews, who in turn influenced the Gnostics, the Maccabees, and the Assassins. They transmitted their diabolical cult to the Templars, who handed it to the Freemasons, where at all times the Jews were the Grand Masters. Now, according to des Merzeau, the chief symbols of the cult of Lucifer was the serpent and the phallus. The rituals involving sexual orgies. By murdering Christian children, the Jews who were witches acquired demonic power. Finally, last chapter of the book, the Antichrist would be a Jewish king who all nations would accept as savior, one world ruler, one world government, and the Jews would rise up, a man with a genius for a political impostor, a sinister bewitcher, around whom fanatical multitudes would cluster. The Jews would hail this man as the Messiah, but he will be more than that. After destroying the authority of Christianity, he will unite mankind in one universal brotherhood and bestow onto it superabundance of good material things. So, for these great services, the Gentile nations will accept him, exalt him, worship him as God. But in reality, for all his apparent benevolence, he will be Satan's instrument, the perdition of mankind. Same year. Both de Merzeau and Balkin had described a link of information of secret societies. In 1870, Balkin explains that a secret society must be disdained because of it. Desmara reported in The Jew that December of 1865 he received a letter from a German statesman to the effect, since the revolutionary occurrence in 1848, I have had relations with Jews from vanity, betrayed the secret of secure societies which he had been associated, and warned me 8 or 10 days beforehand all the revolutions were about to break out all over Europe, I owe him unshakable conviction that all these movements of oppressed people, etc., envisioned by a few dozen individuals, gave orders to the secret societies of Europe. The ground is absolutely mined beneath our feet, and the Jews provide a large contingent of these miners. It is a myth. The protocols, plagiarized in part by works of Joly. He, in turn, has derived some of his information from other sources. Joly accused of plagiarizing other popular novels before. And according to Lord Alfred Douglas, in plain English, 1921, Joly was a Jew. His real name was Moses Joel. Similar accusations made by Carrie Bolton, Protocols in Zion, in contexts where Joly's real name was Joseph Levy. A lifelong Freemason, member of the Reich of Mizraim, Joly, a protege of Crémieux, friend of Victor Hugo, himself a friend of St. Yves, and Bouter-Levon, Earl of Lytton, both purported members of the Rosicrucians. Joly's work is also predated by many works that say the exact same thing. Also, friend of Karl Marx. See how this all joins up. It goes down, one of these guys may or may not have been a Jew. But this is not a Jewish religion. This is some guys trying to start crap, basically. So when someone comes up and tells you, Protocols of Zion, tells you what Jews believe, it does not. It says what a couple Jews believed, and it took bits and pieces out of other books to give you a bill of goods. It is evident why the Nazis regard Nietzsche as saying their ambitions. To Nietzsche, notions of evil derived mainly from subjugated people, envious of their masters. This tradition, which he called slave morality, which we still hear to this day, he traced again to Judaic tradition, contrasts it with the wild and life-affirming Aryan traditions. In the genealogy of morals, Nietzsche introduces one of his most controversial ideas, the blonde beast, which he compares to a beast of prey in public God and good, which is irresistible instinct for mastery over others. Nietzsche expressly insists that it is a mistake to hold beasts of prey to be evil, for their actions stem from inherent strength rather than malicious intent. Pleas for mercy are just desperate cries of the weak who refuse to surrender to the supremacy of their superiors. Rather, it is the duty of the strong to eradicate the weak, to purify the Aryan race, the blonde beast. Geez, I heard another host saying this earlier, a couple of days ago. Yes, I know, very afraid. So the height of the Aryan, black man, black Asian man. I love it. Now, according to Nietzsche's thesis, socialists, Democrats, and the masses are products of the most primitive form of pre-Aryan society. According to Nietzsche, who can say whether modern democracy or even more modern anarchism is especially that inclination for the commune, for the most primitive form of society, which is shared by all the socialists of Europe, does not signify the main tremendous counterattack that is to conquer the master race, the Aryans. It is not succumbing psychologically, right? The characters are the most humiliating, vengeance-seeking instincts, the descendants of all European and non-European slavery, especially the pre-Aryan people. They represent mankind's regression. Finally, Nietzsche concludes with the hymn of praise to the blonde Germanic beasts. White people who do not actually exist because you are related to every other people that have ever been here. The Nazi Party was a result of the merging of the German brand of Crowley's OTO and the Thule Gesellschaft of Germany. So Afghani's influence departed in two directions. Nazi Party derived the influence of the Jamal-ud-Din al-Afghani through the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, while in Egypt his influence produced the Salafi movement and the Muslim Brotherhood, the organization primarily responsible for the penetration of most acts of terrorism in the name of Islam in the 20th century. The Muslim Brotherhood, created 1928 by Hassan al-Banna, a student of Rashid Ridi, in reaction to the 1924 abolition of the Caliphate. As discovered by many former U.S. prosecutors and former Army intelligence officers, he was allowed to peruse CIA archives. He had been recruited in the 30s by Hitler as well to establish an arm of the German intelligence in Egypt and later to the United States. His followers. Now, as purported modern representative of the Brotherhood of Serenity, he influenced the Muslim Brotherhood as a modern derivative of the ancient assassins. The Nazis, on the other hand, were purportedly the continuum of the Templars, to whom they transmitted their occult knowledge. In effect, the Brotherhood would form an international financial network closely tied to Western intelligence agencies, through which financial acts of terrorism, and terrorism falsely characterized as jihad, penetrated the agenda and agent provocateurs, and serve as false flag operations to provide the pretext for the expanded colonization of subject territories. As Robert Dreyfus explained, the Muslim Brotherhood was the creation of the Oxford Movement and the Round Table. It would not exist today were it not for the fact that more backward elements of Muslim cultures were observed, taken note of, and carefully cultivated by the British Oxford and Cambridge universities. Let's tell this. Do not blame the Jews